My favourite person to play board games with is my wife. We've played over 1,000 games together. But when it comes to playing just the two of us, there's a certain type of game we prefer, what I call a couples game. It has to fit into our day. We don't have 4-hour game nights together, so we need something we can play in an hour or less. And it has to be easy to get back into if we haven't played it in ages. And ultimately, it still has to keep us interested after many years of playing it. If you're looking for a game to play with your partner, even if they're not as into games as you are, these are my top 10 recommendations. More than any video I've ever made, I would swear by these games. If you want to buy any of them, you can help me out by using the links below. Let's get to the list. In Sobek, 2 players, you're in an ancient Egyptian market collecting goods. It's like a competitive shopping trip. You're trying to get everything you want and stop your opponent from getting what they want. On your turn, you take something from the market in the line where the ankh is pointing. I'm gonna grab some ivory. I'm making a piano for dinner. What makes the game so interesting is that when you take a tile, it tells you where the ankh will point next, so you know what tiles your opponent will be able to take. Sometimes getting what you want means they'll get something even better. I know it's our 20th anniversary, but that just means we've had so many of them that we're bored of them by now. So, can I go to the board game convention?
Okay, then I won't feel bad about going to Ibiza with the girls, even though it's on your birthday.
Wait, what? It really makes you think twice about what you take, because you can look ahead and predict what you'll get down the line. One bad decision, taking something that's exciting now, could leave you with regret and failure, just like your mum said would happen if you did drugs. Little did she know you could achieve that without ever doing them. But being picky comes at a price, because every tile from the ankh pawn that you skip over goes into your corruption pile. And if you end up with more corruption, it gives points to your opponent. It's such a great dilemma. You have the option to cut corners, but if you do it too much, you'll live to regret it. It's how politics used to work. And when do you sell a set? If you go early, you get first dibs on these special tokens, but if you get more of that type later, you might not be able to sell them, and goods left in your hand go on your corruption pile. There are also these powerful character tiles that you take face down, so you don't know what your opponent has. And it puts you on edge. Is it a gun in their pocket or just a banana? I love that you can plan ahead in this game, but I also love that you can puncture those plans. And then if you're really good, you can plan for the punctures. But at a certain point, that's just anxiety. Fungi, also known as morels, is a game that captures the everyday stresses of foraging for mushrooms. As you walk through the woods together, you take it in turns to pick some fungus from under your feet. And no, not your athlete's foot. Do you take the common honey fungus or the rare morel, which tastes better but is a lot harder to come by? Because you need at least 3 of the same type to eat them. You won't want to heat your pan up over nothing. So if you take a morel now, how long is it going to sit in your hand before you get another 2 to cook it? And with so many different types of fungi, your hand is filling up with all this stuff that doesn't go together, like you're buying clothes in TK Maxx. Which wouldn't be a problem if it weren't for your hand size. You see, the irony of this game is you don't have much room. And if you want the jokes to get better than that, you have to like and subscribe. Your tiny hands can only hold 8 mushrooms at a time, and it becomes a problem almost immediately. At first, you're gaily strolling through the forest without a care in the world.
Yeah, I think I'll have a porcini. For free.
And in no time at all, you're freaking out because you can't pick up the mushrooms you need. Babe, it's your turn.
I know it's my turn, but I need to take the porcini so I have 3 to cook them, but I don't have space to take it, and to make space, I need to cook something, but I don't have 3 of anything, and to get 3 of something, I need to take the porcini, but I can't. Babe.
There are a few ways to make space, like taking a basket, which means you can carry more. But if you do something sensible like that on your turn, you won't be doing what you love, taking mushrooms. It'd be like going to McDonald's and having a salad. And if you don't take a card now, your opponent might grab it. There's only enough of the better mushrooms for one of you to make a meal out of them. Leave Chanterelle alone, she's mine.
Don't personify the mushrooms, John, it's creepy.
You can take a mushroom further down the path by spending walking sticks to reach ahead and grab it. But to get sticks, you have to sell some mushrooms. It means giving up on one dream so you can invest in another. It's like selling your drum kit to pay for singing lessons. Thank God Phil Collins didn't have to. Like a pair of nepotism babies, in Fungi you're overwhelmed with good opportunities and you physically can't take all the other actors' roles. This game is a timely reminder that being rich is hard. In Shottentotten, also known as Battle Line, you play as rival Scottish clans, fighting over a border. But you actually don't attack each other. You send your troops up to the line, and they stand there like catwalk models, facing each other off, but never touching. The player with the hottest models wins that battle. For today's battle, we've gone with a bagpiper, an archer, and a muscleman, all in a matching purple.
Wow, yours are way hotter. I've just got 3 wizards.
Like many of the best 2-player games, it's competitive. If I eat this cake, that's less cake for you, but it's not destructive. I can't come into your house and bend all your cake forks. To win these stones, you're trying to build sets of cards that are stronger than your opponents, and they work like poker hands. The strongest is a run of the same color, then 3 of a kind, and so on. The trouble is, you have to put a card down every turn, so you can't wait to collect better cards before you make plans. You have to start committing immediately. It's like you're a football manager who has to pick their midfield before they even know what attackers are at the club. Okay, I'll put the 5 here, I guess, and hopefully I'll draw the 4 or the 6. No? Okay, great. But how long do you wait for the perfect cards? If you've got 2 more 5s, you could give up on a color run and get a 3 of a kind. A bird in the hand is better than spending your whole life single because you're waiting for Dua Lipa to call. That's the heart of the game, hope and compromise. Knowing when to be ambitious, early 20s, and when to give up on being a rock star and settle for a secure office job, late 20s. You also have to accept that you can't win all the stones, so deciding where to put your best efforts is crucial. If they come in early with a strong set, you should probably let them have it and save your good cards for somewhere else, so their best troops got all dolled up for an empty battlefield. The whole game is play a card, then take a card. It couldn't be simpler, and yet the decision of which card to play and where is up there with the best. In Caesar, you're fighting over ancient Rome in the friendliest war game you'll ever play. It puts the civil into civil war.
I'd quite like Sardinia, if that's all right.
Actually, I'd also like Sardinia. Sorry.
Well, I must say, I would really like Sardinia.
Okay, fine. You clearly want Sardinia more than me. Every turn, you place a token, staking a claim to a region. You're like 2 siblings dividing up your father's belongings, putting a post-it note on everything you want to keep.
Well, obviously I should take Sicily because me and Dad both love lemons.
I'm not letting you have Sicily. You'll just put it straight on eBay, I know it. You place your tokens on the borders of a region, and when it's filled up, whoever has the most influence there wins control. You're racing to get all your banners down to win the game. What's clever is that your tokens are split in 2, so you're adding strength to 2 regions at once on either side of the border. And like having 2 birthday parties on one night, you can either half-heartedly attend both, impressing no one, or make a real impact at one and skip the other, losing a friend or a foothold in Dalmatia in the process. Location is everything, because if you win a region that's next to one you already own, you get to place a banner on the border between them. It's like if you get 2 seats next to each other at the cinema, you also control the armrest in between, which is of great strategic importance. It means you have to be careful not to let your opponent dominate one area, because every adjacent region is worth double, and it snowballs really quickly.
I can't let you take Italy when you've already got Sicily. But they come as a pair. Dad wouldn't want us to split them up. Or to argue.
But if you have both, where am I supposed to go on holiday? Numidia. Sounds like an STI. The magic touch are these bonus tokens, which go not to the winner of a region, but the player who placed the last token there. Taken at the right time, they're enough to swing a game in your favour, and it tears you between focusing on key strategic positions and claiming the bonuses that will make you stronger. But all the while at the mercy of your small hand of tokens. Even when there's a perfect place to send your legions, you might not have the type you need for that space. It's agony. Like, for once, you're actually excited to go to the gym, but your kit's in the wash. And I love how reactive this game is. You're constantly distracted from your strategy to respond to what your opponent is doing. It's like trying to watch a film while looking after a 2-year-old. The longer you put off dealing with them, the bigger and more irreversible the mess. Arboretum is one of the most amazing, agonizing, brilliant, unbearable card games you'll ever play. You're planting rows of beautiful trees to create an idyllic arboretum that will delight the senses and soothe the soul.
Oh, for sake, go it up.
You're trying to create runs of trees. For example, collecting all the cherry blossoms and planting them in order from 1 to 8. That's the dream. Okay, I'll put the 5 Cassia here, and hopefully I'll get the 6 soon. And you'll wait for that card like a prom date that you know deep down has stood you up.
Next time, she could show up any minute.
But you don't need a run of all the same tree to get points. And the game is licking its lips, waiting for you to give up on that dream and lower your standards.
You can put me in your arboretum.
No thanks, I'm waiting on someone else. As long as the walk starts and ends with the same tree, you'll score every tree in between, no matter how ugly it is. It's like a Kit Kat. You can get away with 90% cheap wafer as long as you start and end with some nice chocolate.
Come see my cherry blossoms. Look, here's a cherry blossom, then ignore that, ignore that, ignore that, and to finish, a cherry blossom. It really is a wonderful cherry blossom arboretum.
But if you do make an untainted run of the same tree, you will score double points, so that is still very much the dream. And compromising on it feels like making a pizza with baby bells. Every turn you draw 2 cards, then you plant one and discard one. And deciding which card to discard makes Sophie's choice feel like picking a brand of bottled water. Imagine you're clearing out your house, and with everything you get rid of, you're not just saying, I don't play this guitar. You're saying, I will never be the type of person that plays guitar.
I can't do it. I can't get rid of anything.
You never touch your Royal Poincianas. Just get rid of one of them.
Yeah, but I've been meaning to get into Royal Poincianas for ages. I've just been really busy. There's a lot to keep up with on Twitter at the moment.
But you have to get rid of something. So you put the guitar out by the bins, and within seconds, your neighbour picks it up.
What? I didn't know you played guitar. You don't have one in your flat?
Yeah, but I've been really meaning to get into it, so thanks. Not only will you now never learn the guitar, but you've got to live next door to a living embodiment of everything you could have been. And that's not even the most evil bit of this game. Your points that you're working so hard on are not guaranteed. You can have a delightful run of jacarandas and score exactly 0 for it. You only score for a type of tree if you have the most points of it left in your hand at the end of the game. Okay, willows. I've got 7.
Uh-huh. And I've got the 8, so only I can score it. Soz?
But you don't have any willows.
Yeah, but you do. I said soz.
So a huge part of the game is keeping trees in your hand to fight over scoring. Should you play that 7 to make your arboretum better, or keep it to protect yourself? Every time you draw a tree that they've got in theirs, you want to keep it to screw them over. But if you put all your energy into being negative, trying to tear them down, you'll end up with nothing positive for yourself. Hashtag Brexit. You can't choose who you fall in love with, and you can't change that one of the best couples games ever made is about the Watergate scandal. One of you plays America's sweetheart, Richard Nixon, and the other plays the pesky journalist that he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for. Every round is a tug of war. The journalist is trying to gain evidence by pulling it towards their side. If they win them, they can pin it to their pegboard. They're trying to create a link from Nixon to 2 of their informants. But if Nixon wins the evidence, he can burn it and use it to block off a connection, making it harder for the journalist. Meanwhile, Nixon is trying to win political momentum, these red tokens. They need 5 to win the game. So both sides have their ultimate prize to aim for, but like a game of capture the flag, if you focus too much on attack, you'll leave your base undefended and make it too easy for your opponent to win. In reality, it's like 5 games of tug of war at once. 3 evidence tokens, the momentum, and the initiative, which decides who gets one more card next round. And you need that to stay ahead. You're pulling at the ropes by playing cards, and you can either use its value to move something that many spaces towards your side, or you can play its action. Most of them have game-changing events that are so powerful you can only use them once, and then you have to remove it from the game. But when is the right time? It's like you only have one grenade, and you need to wait for enough zombies to collect before you throw it in. And by burning that card in a blaze of glory, you can no longer use its value in future tugs of war. It's like blurting out that you hate someone, blowing your cover when you would have got way more enjoyment from months of little snide remarks. Individually, they don't seem like much, but they have a bigger impact in the long run. The theme makes the game seem more complicated than it is. There's a visceral feeling to what you're doing in this game, waiting for the right time to stick your neck out and attack. As soon as you show your hand, you're vulnerable. If you come at the king, you best not miss. In Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, you step into a Sherlock Holmes novel by solving a crime together. And not in that usual board game way of doing something. Ooh, I planted a tree. No, you didn't. In this game, you're actually given a mystery to solve, and by the end, you must work out who the culprit is and why. It's like watching an episode of a detective show together. It all starts with a dead body. Courtney Allen was found shot to death in an alley behind his office on the evening of March the 9th at approximately 7 p.m. by the constable on patrol. But instead of following the TV detective around as they interview suspects and have some mild flirtation with their partner that won't resolve for another 22 episodes, you get to decide which leads to follow. You could visit the victim's workplace or interview their brother, or if you're listening closely, you could find a lead that others wouldn't.
They said there was a cigarette at the crime scene, so let's visit all the tobacco shops and see if they know something.
You look up the place you want to go in the book and read the encounter, and it's written in the style of the novels. It is evident that Walter Cahoe has come up through the ranks and would be more comfortable in overalls than his present ill-fitting tweeds. And while you read it out, your partner takes notes and tries to spot the subtle clues. The murderer isn't going to admit they did it, but maybe their limp or their accent will connect them to evidence you already have.
So this guy isn't used to wearing a suit, which means
He recently got promoted, which means...
he killed his boss's enemy.
Does it?
This is why you never get promoted.
Making those connections feels amazing, like you're actually a detective. And I love going back over my notes and discussing our theories with each other. The cases are written like a proper whodunit, so you start off thinking that one person is the killer, and then as the mystery unravels, you keep changing your mind. This is the one game that actually breaks my rule of being able to play it in under an hour. And we don't usually finish a case in one sitting, but it's super easy to pause it and come back to another night. Each box has 10 cases in, and once you've played a case, you've solved it, so you can't play it again. It's the equivalent of a single malt 18-year-old whiskey for board gamers. It won't last forever, so we bring it out as a treat on special occasions. There are 4 boxes you can get. The red one is my least favourite because it has these Jack the Ripper cases that are a lot darker and more unpleasant. But you could start with any of the other 3. You don't have to play them in order. And they're all great. Patchwork is a puzzle game that plays on a deep human need to make things neat and tidy. You're taking Tetris shapes and sewing them to your patchwork quilt. The goal is to fill up your personal board so you leave as few empty spaces as possible.
You are going to be so bad at this game. I've seen you pack a suitcase.
Ha! I've seen you load the dishwasher and organise the fridge and put away the shopping.
So you agree I do more than you?
Each turn you can only take from the next 3 shapes, so you're striving to make something beautiful, but working with misfits, like trying to write a song for the Spice Girls. Every new piece incapable of harmonizing with the others, and threatening to create gaps that you'll never fill.
If I put it here, it will ruin everything, and if I put it here, it will ruin everything. Oh, if I flip it over and rotate it, it will ruin everything.
So there's something intensely satisfying about finally slotting in a piece that perfectly fits your awkwardly shaped hole. It's like finding true love. To be clear, the hole is in your heart, so it hurts when you see the piece of your dreams and your opponent takes it. The game creates a seething rivalry. You can't tell them how much you need that piece until they take it. Like 2 single people at a wedding competing over the last available man who doesn't talk about crypto. He's wasted on you.
Huh. As if he'd want to go near your mouldy old quilt.
But as much as you want to, you can't just focus on making it look neat. You've got to get this quilt filled up. Each tile takes time to sew, and you only have limited time to finish your quilt. All retirements end eventually. If you only take shapes that use up a lot of time, you'll end the game with a half-finished quilt. That's not going to keep your grandkids warm. And as punishment, you lose 2 points for every empty space. You soon learn that the trickier, uglier pieces are much better value because you get more coverage for your money. So now you're taking the shapes that will cause you problems, like recruiting the troubled kid to the team because he's just so dang good at throwing baseballs. Then doing your best Sandra Bullock impression to help him fit in neatly, because you're racing against your opponent to complete a perfect 7x7 square first to win 7 points. So you've got to be neat, cheap, and quick. And it's that challenge that makes Patchwork so addictive. I don't like chess as a couples game because it always favors the experienced player.
Checkmate.
Ah.
Checkmate. Checkmate.
But
It's only a matter of time.
I prefer to play Onitama, which has a feel of chess, but it levels the playing field by making it impossible to master, because the movement of the pieces are controlled by cards, and the cards you use are different every time, so a good strategy in one game won't work in the next. To move a piece, you play a card, and the card tells you where you can move it, which is great because you don't have to learn and remember how the pieces move. It shows you, like the options are lit up in an app. Just like in chess, you're trying to take each other's pieces by making an attack.
Have you still not taken the bins out?
But by playing it, you give that card to the other player, so you're opening yourself up to them using it against you.
Well, since we're talking about the bin, the last time you took it out, you didn't clean up the bin juice.
You can use the cards to look ahead, planning a few turns in advance. And it's not just about if I move here, then they'll do that, but if I move here using this card, which adds another layer to consider. You'll still find yourself in those familiar stalemates, knowing that if you take their piece, they'll just take yours. And often it will center around one card that you know if you use it, it gives them the chance to take your king. So they try to put you in a position where you have to use it. It's satisfying thinking through a strategy and pulling it off, just like you get from playing chess, but Onitama is less intense, less serious. It only lasts 20 minutes, anyone can play it, and you don't have to stay up all night hallucinating chessboards on the ceiling to be any good at it.
And soz.
It's not just chess then. Of all the many head-to-head two-player card games that could have made this list, Lost Cities is the best. And if you disagree with that, you can argue with me about it on my Discord by becoming a patron of the channel. It's so good that it inspired 2 other games on this list. Its designer Rainer Knizia came up with Schottentotten while making Lost Cities, and Dan Cassar credits it as his biggest inspiration for Arboretum. In Lost Cities, you play as rival adventurers. There are 5 trails to explore, and you go on expeditions by playing cards of that color in order. The longer the expedition, the better, because every card you collect is worth that number in points. It's a game of big risks and big rewards. First of all, expeditions are expensive. You can't just get the number 10 bus to a lost city. You need to charter a flight for Indiana Jones and cover his hat budget. Every expedition you start costs you minus 20 points. So before you start one, you might want to make sure you have enough cards to win that 20 points back, and then some. Unlike Schottentotten and Arboretum, the game lets you wait. Instead of playing a card onto an expedition, you can discard it and draw a new one. So you can build an expedition in your hand before committing. But by trying to avoid one risk, you're risking something else, giving your opponent something they really need. I'm giving away this tiny jug, it's useless to me.
Useless? Now we've got the full set, it's worth millions.
Wait, I haven't let go of it.
But you said it's useless to you.
Yeah, but I don't want you to make millions, that's not fair. And you're risking running out of time to finish your expeditions. If you take too long getting ready to go out, you'll have less time on the dance floor. But if you can wait and pull off an expedition with 8 or more cards, you get a 20-point bonus. So it's big rewards like that that make you want to spend even longer on your hair. The biggest risk are these wagers. They will double, triple, or quadruple your score for that expedition. Big reward. But if you end up with a minus score, it will double that too. massive risk. You're effectively placing a bet on doing well, and it's exactly the kind of alpha male bravado you'd expect from an adventurer. Not only will I find this lost city, but I'm going to explore the shit out of it, I bet you.
Okay, babe, just don't forget to wear insect repellent.
Oh, come on, I was being alpha. And because you have to make that bet at the start of the expedition, before you know what cards you'll get, it's ripe for a comeuppance.
How was the lost city? Did you have fun?
I don't want to talk about it.
Well, it wouldn't be a lost city if everyone found it.
And the rivalry in this game is exquisite. It's like you're a pair of drunk explorers bragging to each other about what you'll achieve while secretly hating each other. Chichen Itza. More like Chichen Itza not that hard to find.
Good luck finding it without this, douchebag.
What?
Oh, nothing. I just said, good luck finding it without this cool hat.
Holding on to the cards your opponent needs is just the kind of passive aggression we love in a game. And by pissing in your neighbor's pint glass, some of it will inevitably splash into yours because you'll have less space for expedition maps if your backpack is taken up with voodoo dolls. Lost Cities doesn't reveal its brilliance until a few plays, when it takes off its glasses and you see it's been beautiful the whole time, like the girl in She's All That, a film released in 1999, the same year as Lost Cities, because if you make a classic, it stays relevant. Those are my top 10 couples games, but what are yours? Let me know in the comments. I share my next 10 favorite couples games with my patrons in my Patreon newsletter. Support the channel and get extra recommendations at patreon.com/Actualol. If you like this video, please subscribe to see more like it, and check out my older couples videos. Links to those and where you can buy the games in this video in the description below. I'm John Perkis, thanks for watching.